Welcome to Scott Alexander Art. Thank you for watching the video, and if you enjoy it, don't forget to like and subscribe. I've called this video Painting Renoir Style Roses because the overall composition and colours used owes much to Renoir's style. I began by using a mixture of burnt sienna and cadmium red just to cover the canvas in acrylic paint before painting any oils on top. The colours of the underpainting will provide a good foundation for the roses to be painted over. Okay, so the palette used is titanium white, cadmium red, permanent rose, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow light, yellow ochre, burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. There's some really nice warm colours here to use for the roses and the background of the painting. Okay, so what I've done so far is just block in some areas of light and dark. So the shadow areas have got some ultramarine blue, burnt sienna and a little bit of permanent rose in there just for a little bit of warmth to those areas. Now, because I'm not using a photo for reference, the composition I'm just imagining, so at the moment I'm just blocking in some rough areas for some roses and just trying to get a feel for the shape of the painting. The colours I've used just for these early flower heads will be a mixture of permanent rose and cadmium red, and then where it's darker I've used just a little bit of ultramarine blue just to bring that colour down a little bit, just to indicate really where the shadows will be. Now they're painted very loosely at the moment, so it is really just the early stages. I'm just trying to understand what shape the overall painting will take. You can see there also I've just put a couple of lighter roses using Naples yellow and just a tiny bit of cadmium yellow just to lift some areas, just to help really indicate what shape the roses will eventually be. So I'm just making my way, blocking in really just around the canvas, again using that ultramarine, permanent rose, a little bit of burnt sienna mixture just around the outsides, and then just defining the shape of where the table meets the corner of the room. The composition itself is fairly simple really. I've got the shadows on the right hand side and I've got the light coming in on the left, so the wall behind the vase is slightly lighter on the left, and of course on the right hand side it'll be darker. So that'll just indicate where the light source is coming in. Now I want these dark areas to be quite dark really, and of course where it is darker there's going to be less definition to the roses themselves, so they're going to be really quite loose on the right hand side where there's a lack of light. And of course these more loose and darker areas of the painting will help to contrast with the lighter areas where there'll be a little bit more detail, so that'll help the viewer zoom in on those lighter, more detailed areas of the painting that I want them to focus on. So I'm just making my way around the flower heads now, just giving a little bit more detail and definition to them. So I'll just be using a little bit of titanium white here and Naples yellow. So I'm just giving a bit more shape to the vase, thinking about where the light's coming in and where the shadows will be, and that will help bring the vase itself into, out into the viewer, more of a 3D construction. So I'm blocking in some darker areas now, just around the roses. That'll be a combination of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, just to get those darker places between the flower heads. This will help create depth to the painting, because of course the light's not getting to those areas, and then of course it'll help those parts recede a little bit, and then the lighter areas will be lifted off the canvas to the viewer. It's really nice getting some green colours on the canvas here for the leaves. You've got red and green are complementary colours, so they work really well together, and they almost illuminate one another, so it's nice to get those sort of tones on there, because that'll work well with the overall red, deep red really, of the painting itself. Where I'm painting the leaves, I'm paying attention to where the light source is coming in. So those that are bathed in the light have been lifted a little bit with cadmium yellow light, which is a really nice light, bright colour. And of course those ones that are in the dark, where the light's not getting to, they're painted with or rather they're darkened with a little bit more ultramarine blue, just to help them recede into the darkness more. So you get a nice contrast between the light and the dark of the leaves, and that again, that'll just help create that sense of depth to the painting, a sense of realism to an impressionistic composition. I'm just thinking about the structure of the painting, and just to help give that sense that, you know, the vase and the roses are on a table, just decided to paint just a couple of fallen rose heads there, just to help create that illusion of 3D, because essentially it's quite a close composition and there's not a lot of room for depth. So just to paint something on the table as well, it will just help the viewer, you know, in the viewer's eye, just perceive the painting to be to have depth to it. Using in all these areas where the light's coming in, just mainly cadmium yellow light, just lifting those lighter parts off. I'd use a little bit of white, but not too much, because it can tend to make the painting go a little bit milky. So the cadmium yellow light is a really good colour, particularly mixed in with some of these reds, and of course this painting is wet into wet, so the colours are blending, you know, really nicely and really well. I'm going back into some of these darker areas just to exaggerate that sense of depth and shadow, just working in some darker tones, primarily with the ultramarine blue mixing with burnt sienna, just to get those darker bits nice and dark, and I'm always sort of stepping back from the painting just to make sure that the light and the dark balance looks right to the eye. So here now I'm taking the opportunity just to add a few more highlights to certain areas of the roses, just thinking about really where the light's coming in and how that will lift off certain petals and edges of those flower heads, and just to step back also, just to make sure that those areas are lit correctly, just to really just put the finishing touches on the composition. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like and subscribe for more. Thank you.